This one is on religion, um, but not just religion, also ancient history. Um, there was a kingdom back. We call that region Egypt today, but it used to be called Khemet. That's what the Old Kingdom was known as. This is before the Greeks really took in and or came in and did their thing, and a long time before the Romans came in and did their thing in Egypt too. See, at one point in time, the great thing about Egypt was their wheat. That's why Alexander the Great, and that's also why the Romans wanted it. A lot of the practices that the Romans had later on, where they would give their citizens grain, the emperors would. Basically, it's a bribe to the people. Let me be your leader, and we'll make sure that you have food. Um, but then there's also the fact that the Egyptians kept a lot of that history. They wrote it down. When I was a kid, we were taught that the Egyptians wrote differently than we do. Um, Basically, we were taught that they just drew in symbols, and symbols each one meant something different or something specific, kind of like kanji, or uh, that's the symbols that a lot of Eurasian write in. It's called kanji. The Egyptians, though, we've been looking through a lot of the stuff that they wrote down, and a lot of the people that they mention and talk about. Um, we found those societies too, and a lot of the clay tablets that they wrote on, such as the Hyksos aren't the first to be written of. They're also not the last. And there's a lot of people the Egyptians wrote about that we found later on. We found their cities. We found their uh, superstructure, their infrastructure. We found their languages. You know, there's a lot of stuff that we're still trying to learn. Um, Same thing with the Greek society, though. I mean, you look at the fact that we found different languages, one of them which we can identify, and one of them which we cannot. And well, you guys are probably familiar with the Battle of Troy, right? And where that was supposed to have taken place. Well, yeah, there's two different languages there, two different two different written languages, and we can understand one, but the other one we're pretty well clueless to. The same thing with the Hittite, um, two different languages. Uh, with the Egyptian, also the same thing, two different written languages. Um, Much of this has been attributed to higher and lower born people. The higher born will understand how to read true hieroglyphics, and then the masses, the regular people, would have their own version. Today, we actually have in Japan something similar to that. Um, I guess the best way to explain that was explained to me by somebody who spent some time in Japan. But basically, there's the Japanese language and how it's been written in the kanji for hundreds and hundreds of years. And then there's the Americanized version. This is where each kanji has a specific sound that is attributed to it. And that way they can basically, pardon me, basically it's like making the English language in kanji, the English alphabet. Um, The reason for that is because now it's a phonic language that's based off of those kanji, and you can learn both. Um, we've found that the Egyptian, we found that that's actually a phonic language as well. There's one of the things that the Egyptians used to do that we find in a lot of these different writings is that what the Egyptians wrote is not necessarily the same as what people they were fighting against wrote. Like when the Egyptians were fighting against the Hittites, they talked about how they had won, how there was this great victory. Then you go and you read what the Hittites had to say about it, and basically, basically the Egyptians got whooped to a standstill. Now there's Yahoo. Yahoo is the god of the Hyksos, or we associate him with as the god of the Hyksos, which is part of the reason that a lot of people think the Hyksos might have been the Israelites of the Bible, Moses, and all of that. I don't know. I wasn't there, obviously, but it is a lot of